Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at the next installment of Concerto Aranjuez. Now, I've done two previous videos on this concerto, and I've decided to continue the series, and I'll be working slowly through this quite long piece of music, which is the concerto. It's about 25 minutes long, and I've had quite a bit of interest in people asking me to cover this important guitar work, especially the Adagio, but I thought let's start at the beginning and continue through. So Concerto Aranjuez, it's a concerto, so it's written for guitar and orchestra, as every concerto is, and it's the most famous concerto for guitar and probably one of the most famous concertos in the world for any instrument. It's so recognizable, especially the Adagio section and the Adagio theme. And Rodrigo is regarded as a really important composer in Spain. He's written a lot of music for guitar, even though he wasn't a guitarist. Yeah, Rodrigo's music is so colorful and Spanish in flavor. The thing about this first movement, it has a lot of flamenco idioms, a lot of flamenco sounds and textures, and that's what I'll be demonstrating in this video. Okay, so we're going to start at bar 61, which is after the orchestra comes in. I should also add that this piece is very difficult. It's difficult for me, and it's difficult for any guitarist. I've never had a chance to perform this with an orchestra, and I'd like to one day. And in part, reviewing this piece is helping me going deeper into it and understanding it. And I often play it at gigs, and I also play it with the backing track. And what I've done today is I've added a backing track, which is an orchestral backing track, to my loop pedal, so we can jump into different sections and play along with the orchestra. I should also add the LGM members will have access to this score and the backing track on the blog, which will allow you to practice it at different tempos. And this is definitely the sort of piece that you need to practice slower. Now, this is in 6/8, and it's written in 6/8, but there's a lot of 6/8, 3/4 interplay. So 6/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So we often get this kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. And you'll hear that throughout this movement. Okay, so we're going to pick it up at bar 61, and we're just going to go straight into the first couple of bars. We have this D chord, which we're playing in second position. It's a down, down, up, down, down. Then we're playing D, E, F, and then the chord extends to really more of an A chord with a D bass. And the melodies, okay? Okay, then we move to fifth position, hammer the first two notes, A, B, and then we're going to play, okay, so what we're going to do there is, as soon as we get to the next bar, we have our little bass note flourish, which goes like this. Okay, so we're going to be going. And once we hit that final A, we have to play that with our A finger. So we're going to go. Okay, at the same time we play the thumb. P, I, P, I, P, I, P. And we're going to repeat that. And this part of the piece is basically moving between D and A, a tonic dominant kind of movement at the moment. D, A, D, A. Now we move up from the fifth position to the ninth position, and we're doing a trill, including these open bass strings. And this is when the flutes first come in. So you'll hear the flutes come in, which I've got it here. We're going to go. Let's try it. So that's what the flutes sound like. So hopefully we can capture that. And they just come in to double that trill. Again, so back to our D chord. So it's A chord, D chord, and we do it again. And at that point, we have the winds coming in to sort of double the melody. So there's little interchanges between the guitar, and Rodrigo starts to bring in small elements of the orchestra, just sort of to kind of do little duets. Notice that there's a lot of staccato. So that staccato needs to be brought out to keep the rhythm punchy and cut through. All right. Okay, then we're moving down. Again, this is all thirds, and we're still playing D, A, D. All right. Okay, so that's the first section. We're going to try playing that. We're going to bring it in from when the flutes come in and see what that sounds like. The challenge is obviously when you're playing with the backing track that it's going its own tempo, but when you're playing in an orchestral situation, the conductor's following you and the orchestra's following the conductor. So that's the job of the conductor, to kind of keep you guys together. At the moment, I'm sort of trying to stay in time with the backing track, so it poses a sort of a bit more of a challenge. All right, so far we've been playing a D to A harmony, 6/8, short, punchy notes, relatively straightforward. So far, probably the only tricky bit has been, and there's a bit of PI things going on throughout this. Okay, now when we get to bar 73, we're going to move to F sharp Phrygian. So we're moving from our D to F sharp Phrygian, which is still actually in D. F sharp Phrygian is the third mode of D major. So we're still staying in D, but with the F sharp in the bass. And what you hear is a scale, our first scale. Now that's a fast scale, it's a tricky scale. There's a crescendo, decrescendo. Starting on G, and that's our Lydian mode. And back to F sharp, back to our Phrygian. And then we do it again in the bass, an octave lower. All the way up, again, Lydian mode. We have this quite dark chord. Okay, so that chord really is kind of a flamenco chord when you think about the type of... That's the sort of thing you get in flamenco, which is an F sharp, an F7 flat 9, sort of... That kind of sound I think he's going for. But he's putting the F sharp in the bass, and then the rest of it sort of forms part of that chord. So we strum it, and then arpeggio. Let's try that. It's getting very exciting, lots of movement, lots of orchestral instruments coming in. Now, bar 83, it says grazioso, and now we move into more melodic sort of feel, a bit more, so slightly happier feel. And we're playing this melody, and the harmony underneath it is actually a 2-5-1, so still in D major, but we're going to go E minor, A7, D, E minor, A7, D. So it's a 2-5-1, and yeah, sort of tricky chords underneath. So we're going to be playing in 5th position. Move to 12th fret. This is really typical Rodrigo sound, playing this minor second together. Again, quite a sort of flamenco sort of sound. So we've got our E minor, A7, D, again, and then we move higher, still D. Now this, I've decided to bring it all down an octave, so we're going to go same thing, but the next section, I'm going to play, instead of where it's written, which is up the octave, I've decided to play down the octave. I just think it sounds as effective, but a little bit easier. And we're playing sort of back, kind of an E flat, B flat, E flat. So we've moved from 2-5-1. Now we're in sort of this in the middle kind of area. So we're going to go. Got a bit of a transitional moment, and we're heading towards A Phrygian, which is what happens straight afterwards. And and we've hit A Phrygian. So he's taking the 2-5-1 melodic bit into a sort of E flat, B flat area, heading towards our A Phrygian. Does that make sense? Yes, it does, because he's moving towards the dominant, which is what we generally do in orchestral music and sonata form. We tend to go towards the dominant, and he's found it. All right, so we've hit A Phrygian. Now we're continuing with this scale versus arpeggio sound, but this notes in D minor, A to A, more or less. And then we do it. Okay, so you can hear that modal sound, which is very flamenco. Okay, so we're heading to. Okay, so again, kind of an A. It's sort of a G minor with an A bass, which is very flamenco. That kind of sound. Okay, so let's try that with the backing track. So we're going to go. Now, there's a little bit of a shift to G minor, C, F. So we're shifting towards F major for a little bit, and so this is our 2-5-1 in F. So we're going to go. Same idea as what we did before, but modulated. So G minor, C, F, G minor, C, F. All right, this is really quite tricky because it's very high. Now we're going to play a little transition bit, which is our D flat to G flat. Okay, so this is kind of our transition bit, and now we're in E Phrygian. All right, and this is kind of where we end up sort of building to a crescendo. This is our F Lydian scale, which is kind of that. Which is kind of what's happening here. F to F in C, basically back to C major. And now we have an E7 chord and this little flourish in E Phrygian. That's actually quite straightforward. Then the final strum, we have to go to the 12th position. And I like to start the scale here and then move to here. And then once we get to that C, we're going to do triplets, mute descending. And you're going to be decrescendo. So let's try that final bit. So that should give you a little bit of an entry point into playing this really challenging but really important guitar work by Rodrigo. So I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, if you like the videos, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you want more content like this. That's it from me, and I'll see you next video. Thanks, guys.